Alright, you're welcome. In this video we're going to be talking about the feast layout, and we're going to be talking about the major characteristics of the feast layout, what makes it different from the liquid layouts. Okay, so in our previous video we talked about the liquid layouts, or we have been using the liquid layout format in pretty much every other tutorial that we have been working with. For instance, this is our business news based website which we created in our last section is a liquid layout, and by liquid layout I mean that it spans all across our entire browser screen from end to end, and it takes the entire width of the browser screen. Unlike the feast layout, you see that there's a bit of space before the actual content of the website begins. Okay, so you have this space on the right and of course on the left, and the width of the website is fixed to a particular pixel count. Okay, so that's what feast layout of feast websites is all about. So we're going to look at the HTML code and the CSS code and how we got this particular feast layout pattern. Okay, so just work with me. If you want to do something like this, you can simply just copy the codes that we have used, but we'll explain it in a bit. First, we'll go to our HTML. We're back to using the initial notepad. Okay, we created a CSS document and we linked it to our HTML, which is the link here, using our href. We call it stylecode.css. In our previous tutorial we talked about how to put how to create an external style sheet and link it to your HTML document, so I'm sure you are familiar with that already. Okay, so the key thing in creating a feast layout is to create a div session and give it an ID name, or a div tag and give it an ID name of container. Okay, so we have an ID name of container here which we created in our div, and we close the div down here. Okay, so that's the most important thing, and every other element or tags within your HTML documents that will appear in your website would be inside your container tag, okay, or your container div. That's the most important and most basic, unlike in the liquid website where you do not need to have a container tag. In this one you have a container tag, and then you have your header, which is this, you have your nav bar, which is this, and then you have your sidebar, which is this one, and of course you have your main content panel, which we call our main. Created the session and call it our main, which is this. Okay, and the first thing you do with your div container or your container div is we go to our CSS now and show you the first thing you do to ensure that this particular web page retains its position in the middle is to set your margin to 0. Okay, is to set your margin to 0 and auto. Okay, so what we did here up here is we just set our margin for the body to 0 and gave it a background color of black. That is pretty basic, so we don't want any extra margin on the edges of our web browser, so that's quite basic. But the most instructive thing is for our container ID selector, we gave it a width, a specific width of 968 pixel count. So by 968 pixel count we mean from this end here to this other end, or from this edge to this edge, so it will not expand beyond 968 pixel count, and it will not shrink below 968 pixel count, so it will remain exactly 968 pixel count, and it measures from this edge to this edge, and all of your content that you put into your web page will go in between this and it will not expand out. Okay, so that's the first thing. You have to give it a specific width in terms of pixel count, and then you set your margin first to 0 pixels and then auto. What that does is it helps to center your web page and keep it fixed in the middle. Okay, so if you do not do that, we'll show you that in a bit. It will take your, it would render it by default, and by default the HTML document they all start from the left. So let's demonstrate that to you. We're just gonna cut this out and save, and we'll come here and hit refresh, and as you can see, our web page is now rendered in on the left side of our browser. Okay, it's now rendered on the left side of our browser, and that is because we have not set our margin, our container margin, to 0 and auto. Okay, so we're going to put that back. It's set to 0 pixels, that's top and bottom, and then auto on both sides. So we're just going to save this again and hit refresh, and as you can see, it's back to the middle, placed nice and neat. Okay, so that should do it for this particular video. In our next video, we'll start to talk about what we did with the headers, the nav bar, and the other calculations that are involved in ensuring that this everything fits into the fixed layout. Okay, so thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next class.